Okay, we're back again. We're trying again. Let's go back. It's gonna take me all day just to get through this fucking video, man. Oh, that's not what I want to see. We're at 29.
To deal with his pain, and it helped him. He passed away,
Sorry to hear that.
but it helped him navigate that, right?
Yeah.
And then you have, unfortunately, people that will use that as an excuse to try to use that product for recreational purposes.
Truth be told, I genuinely think Officer Mendoza has good intentions, but I don't think DARE can truly move forward unless it can accept the fundamental truth that drugs, for many people, can be fun and won't necessarily destroy your life, but they can. Anyways, as the conference wrapped up, the president of DARE, top dog Francisco Pagueros, gave a closing speech. To be honest, he was the man that I really wanted to talk to. A 4-decade DARE man who served as an eyewitness to DARE's genesis in the 80s, decline in the late 90s, and now I guess rebirth in the 2020s. But still, I was skeptical as to whether or not I could make it work. But I guess my mustache and reflective glasses worked wonders. And so, on the late afternoon on the final day of the DARE conference, I got President Pagueros to my hotel room for an exclusive one-on-one sit-down interview. Well, thanks so much for making the time, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, I got like a pimple on
First
my
name is
nose.
Francisco. Last name is Pagueros.
Oh, that hurts.
St. Paul,
Trying to pop it.
E-G-U-E-R-O-S. In a former life, 26 years with the Los Angeles Police Department. Currently the president and CEO of DARE America, DARE International.
Frank Pagueros is the president of DARE America.
The DARE program was started in 1983. I got involved in 1984. It was actually a year after the program was started. At that time I was a sergeant, so I wasn't rank eligible to teach the program because it was officers that were teaching the program in schools.
Throughout the 1970s, 80s, and up until the early 90s, until the LA riots of 1992, President Pagueros served as both sergeant and captain of LAPD's Rampart Division, the most controversial division in the department's history. 1988 film Colors, and later Training Day, The Shield, and the video game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Rampart Division was tasked with looking after the MacArthur Park, Pico Union, Skid Row, Echo Park, and Koreatown neighborhoods of LA, to name a few. Areas which were, and mostly, are still rife with mostly Hispanic gangs, like MS-13, 18th Street, Temple Street, Echo Park.
Yeah, what did they really do? They put away people. Those people didn't change anything.
Pagueros worked under the authority of Captain Daryl Gates, who actually came up with the idea of DARE and architected a plan to implement DARE in inner-city schools, despite the LA City Council refusing to give it funding.
And we will do everything in our power to put the gang members where they belong.
The program within LAPD was an unfunded program. The chief at the time, Daryl Gates, didn't like to wait for the city budgetary process to catch up with his endeavors and visions. So there was an organization formed called the Crime Prevention Advisory Council, which was a lot of well-intended, well-to-do Angelinos who funded all of the LAPD's unfunded programs. DARE was one. The Special Weapons and Training was another program that was unfunded. Our mounted unit was not funded. A lot of crime prevention programs were not funded. So
this is where it gets insane, and there's basically no reporting on this. Because the LA City Council refused to fund Daryl Gates' ideas and allocate millions in taxpayer dollars to police programs like DARE, the Special Weapons and Tactics Team program, aka SWAT, and most controversially, a militarized gang unit program called CRASH. CRASH standing for Community Resources Against Street Hoodlums. Chief Gates had to think outside the box being the law, and so created a private corporation called the Crime Prevention Advisory Council, a deceptively named company ran by an executive committee of 72 wealthy citizen stakeholders that included physicians, entertainment.
Is he on a helicopter just shooting?
What it was in the 1950s.
What is going on, bro? He's got a BFA on, though. So he's got a camera, it looks like. This is a training exercise. That's a BFA. Those are used to for blanks, because blanks still produce some type of projectile. So it's like a little attachment you put on the end of your barrel. And it basically negates that from happening.
50s, before gangs and drugs ruined everything. Daryl
Wait, did it come off though?
to what it
Am I
was
tripping?
in the 1950s, before
It did. He has real bullets on it. What is this? Bro, I gotta see if there's a fucking comment on this, dude. He had a BFA on with real ammo, and that or he didn't have it tightened enough. If you don't tighten a BFA enough, it'll pop off.
sports world dignitaries,
So you have to tighten it with a like a screwdriver, because it has like a little keychain ring at the end of it. You put it in there and tighten it,
Daryl Gates' dream.
because it screws into your barrel.
To militarize LAPD and turn the city back into what it was in the 1950s, before gangs and drugs ruined everything. Daryl Gates
That's
somehow
wild, though.
called the establishment of this corporation a community partnership, but it was a clever way of circumnavigating the checks and balances that city government is supposed to impose on its police department.
The instrumentation at LAPD has always been poor because the city council won't come across with a few bucks in order to provide that instrumentation.
And President Peguero's job in this whole equation was essentially to procure funding for Chief Gates by convincing rich private citizens to become stakeholders in the Crime Prevention Advisory Council.
Part of my duties were support, help finding funding sources to keep LAPD's various programs going.
Drugs. Some of the big kids do them. But my mom and dad helped get this DARE anti-drug program in our school.
Now, what was the purpose in creating the program in the first place?
It was, the legend goes that Chief Gates and the then superintendent of schools at the time, Harry Handler, were at an event and just having a casual conversation where they shared their observations about what they believed to be
I love the fantasy
generational,
music behind it.
Problems. LA really grew after World War II. That was probably the biggest growth spurt that we had. So after World War II, there was a certain percentage of people within the population that were, repeat problems for the police department. And as it turns out, the school district was saying it's kind of the same people.
These are no good.
Is he trying to be racist without being racist? Like the schools are also having problems with the same types of people.
Miserable sons of bitches that are plaguing this city, and we got to get rid of them.
Yes, LA grew massively after World War II, but specifically it gained over 300,000 new Black and Hispanic residents in just 10 years. Most of the Hispanics were coming from across the border from Mexico, whereas the majority of Blacks were coming from the American South in a mass exodus called the Second Great Migration, which we covered in our video about Philadelphia. Much like white Philadelphians, white Angelenos feared that having Blacks and Mexicans in their neighborhoods would in turn lower their property values, and so LA's majority white city council leadership voted to impose racial zoning restrictions that wouldn't allow Blacks or Mexicans to rent or buy homes in neighborhoods like Bel Air, Larchmont, Mid-Wilshire, and Hollywood. These new groups of immigrants after World War II, who are now the majority in Los Angeles, were only really permitted to rent or buy in the neglected, semi-industrial parts of town, like South Central LA, Boyle Heights, Echo Park, and other sort of random pockets of town, like Venice and East Hollywood, where these communities mostly remain to this day, though unfortunately, gentrification has corroded the once Hispanic Elysian Valley corridor, the once Black West Adams neighborhood proximal to USC, and led to the formation of new suburban low-income developments, which is the future of poverty in America, once reverse white flight has completed. But let's back up a bit. Between 1950 and 1980, white population in LA decreased from 94% to below 50% as the third generation of mostly Black and Hispanic Angelenos reached elementary school age.
And then their children, then in the 1980s, it was the third generation. And Dr. Handler and Chief Gates were talking about it, and it seemed that substance use was at the heart of a lot of those problems. I don't care if it was East LA or South Central LA or out in the valley, the kids were pretty much experiencing the same things. So at that point, they decided to develop an intervention program to be delivered at the elementary school to just try to break the cycle so that we didn't hit the fourth generation.
DARE hit LA schools in 1983 and mostly focused on inner city neighborhoods, where an LAPD officer would go into the school and give students tips on how to not do drugs and how to not join a gang.
Initially, the lessons were geared around information dealing with alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana. So the officer would go in once a week for 17 weeks and deliver the lesson.
The introduction of the DARE program had almost fascinating timing. When it began, the most popular drugs were PCP, marijuana, cocaine, and Quaaludes. But only 3 years after DARE's introduction, the crack epidemic began and made all of those drugs seem like child's play.
And I guess 85, is that when the crack epidemic started?
Yeah, 80s, yeah.
School boards and police departments from all across the country were panicking when crack hit the streets and trying desperately to figure out what they could do to prevent the next generation of students from smoking crack. And at the 1985 International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference in Houston, Texas, Daryl Gates spoke and informed 16,000 public safety professionals about the DARE program and its success in LA.
It was at a meeting of the major city chiefs, IACP, International Association of Police Conference, where Gates first mentioned the implementation of this program, and it sparked some interest. So there were requests from other law enforcement agencies and school districts, and it was so well received that through word of mouth, it just started to be imported and exported to other communities.
After receiving the support of Ronald and Nancy Reagan, DARE pretty much went nationwide, and within 7 years was present in 95% of all public elementary schools.
Let's go back to the 80s. Did you ever meet Nancy or Ronald Reagan?
Yeah. Actually, we took Nancy on a ride-along when I was with LAPD. And the Bushes, the Bushes and the Clintons would actually come to classrooms. Chelsea Clinton was a DARE graduate.
As their
You know, it's crazy. That would not happen today. Nancy Reagan going on ride-alongs with the cops. That's wild to me. You ain't gonna see fucking Ivana Trump doing that shit, or whoever, but I don't know Biden's wife's name.
budget increased, DARE spent a ton
Martha,
of money
I don't know.
also producing cool commercials, cartoons, and most importantly, high-budget production called Safety Tips that was originally pitched by a young man from San Luis Obispo named Bill Russell, a.k.a. Retro Bill.
Hey, let's make this thing, part of the 21st century, and we'll turn it into a really cool video. And then ultimately, Retro Bill became the DARE Safety Tips DVD. And I kept telling my crew I wanted this to have a shelf life of 20 years. Now, again, that's big because they were like, dude, you really think we're going to make a safety video that 20 years from now kids are still going to watch? I said, yeah, because it's going to be
because we're going to force them.
It's going to be fun. And even then, 20 years ago, that was like the fastest thing going. Yeah. And my editor said, Retro, are you really going to put a sound effect in for every single move that everybody makes? And it's like,
make it corny as fuck so where kids see it and be like, this guy's so fucking lame.
Because again, I felt that if you can get their attention orally,
hot diggity dog, I'm out of here. Right on.
Right?
Auditorily.
As well as
not orally.
Visuals. And then you give kids this powerful, impactful message.
Never talk to a stranger in a public restroom.
Present it in a fun way.
Cool.
You can get really serious points across, and you've seen this.
Hey kids, it's Ad Read Andy here. Cool. You ever got a spam phone call or an email from God knows who trying to sell you some product or waste your time? It's because your personal data,
including your phone number, email,
it's a NordVPN.
shopping habits, employment history,
and even social security number
are being traded into those. With your permission, incognito
Anti-graffiti and anti-drugs.
You also talked a little bit about
60% off. Cool.
It wasn't just about drugs. You also talked a little bit about graffiti.
Right. Well, anti-graffiti and anti-sticker on public property is a big passion of mine, and I'm known, if anybody goes to Retro Bill's social media pages, they will see that I regularly go out on the weekends or when I'm free and personally spray paint over, and I match the colors on those signs and those poles because I just find it offensive. And I believe as citizens, we all owe it to each other to not only look out for each other, but look out for your community.
You think graffiti is pretty bad, though?
I do. And it's gotten worse.
Tenderloin, but we all locked in over here, man. We got face car valid all through these trenches.
How come you think?
Yeah, why?
It's gotten worse because I don't think there's any accountability for it.
Shout out the DA though.
Wait, what?
Why?
But we all locked in over here, man. We got face car valid all through these trenches.
How come you think?
Why has it gotten worse? Because I don't think there's any accountability for it.
Shout out to Diego.
The safety tips
I don't understand what they were talking about there.
DVD was just one part of the program's youth-targeted advertising campaign. DARE also produced coloring books and fun pamphlets that taught kids how to do things like resist peer pressure and say no to drugs. At the conference, I picked up something that I personally remember reading when I was a kid that gave me 5 techniques to say no to smoking weed. I wanted to do a live demonstration with Retro Bill, the king of resisting peer pressure, to see what he would do in many situations that I was in as a kid.
Ooh, we're gonna role play.
Hey man, I see that you are looking pretty down. I got a bong in the car. Let's go out and get freaking wasted.
You think I look down? Bro, I do this and I'm grateful. I'm alive, man. You know, I fell out of a tree first day of summer a few years back. I was paralyzed from the neck down for 3 days. I tell you what, greatest high is when you can do this and you don't need assistance. Now I'll pass on the bomb man. Besides, my mom, if I ain't home for dinner, I'm toast. I gotta go. Hey, peace, man.
I respect that.
Hey, you want to smoke?
No thanks.
Oh, I'm gonna go tell everybody that you are a chicken.
Well, that's okay, Paul, but that's something I don't want to do.
At what year was DARE at its peak in America?
Probably the late 80s, and that's kind of when the negative research hit. Some of the research reflected that DARE wasn't achieving the outcomes that the prevention community thought it should be achieving.
In the early 90s, a large multitude of studies came out showing that among the DARE generation, drug use wasn't actually reduced.
So the 1992 sixth graders had DARE, the 1989 students did not have DARE. Right here we see daily use of cigarettes. 1989, 0. In 1992, 1%.
Had the opposite
Drug,
effect.
Alcohol, and tobacco consumption appeared to be increasing. This could have been for a variety of social and cultural factors, but critics of DARE, in what Pagueros calls the prevention community, pointed at DARE and said, what's the point of funding this to the tune of $700 million per year when it's not really working?
The prevention community perception was that if you don't prevent it from happening, if you don't prevent a person from using, your program hasn't been effective. I think it's pretty well accepted now. If you can delay the onset of experimentation, you decrease the probability of that individual developing an addiction. If you can prevent a 16-year-old from experimenting until they're 19, they're probably going to have less of a problem with it. They're going to find out when they're 20, 21 that I don't need it. Whereas if they're starting at 14, 15, 16, not that easy for them to make that decision.
Doobies all day long at 420. But how much is too much? And if you stop, can the brain reverse the damage?
You know, the medical field has determined that your brain doesn't fully mature until about 25th year.
Yep,
you know, the
that's true.
frontal part of the body, the one that deals with all the rational decision making, is the last part of the brain to develop, and it's not developed until your mid-20s. It's all the other, the pleasure centers, all that stuff developed first.
Yeah, I have pretty severe brain damage from experimenting with psilocybin mushrooms when I was 12, 13.
I personally began drug use quite early in life, but never really proceeded to do
Bring
drugs like
back.
benzos or opiates, mainly because my experience when I was 14 acquiring a condition called HPPD from using psilocybin mushrooms scared me away from the life of hard drugs in favor of alcohol and stuff like that. But I do think that either way, even if I'd been told about the dangers of drugs, I probably still wouldn't have listened. But anyways, that's just my opinion. I think that people have to learn for themselves and figure out what works for them. But that's not the main purpose of my conversation with Pagueros. Almost everyone that I talk to who doesn't like DARE sees DARE as a direct extension of the war on drugs. I wondered how he felt about the war on drugs, looking back at an objective failure.
A lot of people are critical of the war on drugs overall.
Well, there was some evidence that certain governmental agencies were involved in a lot of activity that were kind of contrary to the whole concept of the war on drugs. So.
Are you talking about like the CIA
giving
crack to Freeway Ricky Ross?
Yeah, it's an unfortunate part of our history, but evidently it's reality. Lower economic communities, minority communities have been targeted by the tobacco and liquor industry. The substances that can cause harm that are commercially available are more available in minority communities than other communities.
Looking back, what are your thoughts on the whole Reagan era war on drugs overall?
Yeah, it's necessary.
I loved it. Didn't do anything, made everything worse, but I loved it.
You can't
Because I was out there smacking heads.
and present it only to an elementary school student in the 6th grade. You know, there needs to be a follow-up intervention, whether it's middle school, high school, and it needs to be present in all the environments with that student's going to engage. If they're involved in the YMCA, if it's at the mall, the community needs to let those students know we're supporting your decision not to be influenced if you don't want to be, to get involved.
So what is DARE in 2023?
Completely different than it was in 1983. The original curriculum, the officer went in for 45 minutes and just talked, gave a presentation. With the new curriculum, the officer probably spends 7 or 8 minutes talking. The students in small cooperative learning groups take that information and apply it to what they perceive as challenges in their life on a day-to-day basis.
In the new DARE classrooms, an officer will give a very brief lecture, and then students will divide into 7 to 8 person small groups where they'll have a sheet listed that presents a variety of situations that may be somewhat risky, such as someone asking you to smoke a blunt after school, someone asking you to join the crib.
That was funny. I don't think that's real, though.
A variety of situations.
I don't think that was a real thing.
Such as someone asking you to smoke
that girl, like in a cop smoking a joint.
A blunt after school, someone asking you to join the
I saw that on fucking
or a
YouTube.
variety of other situations that could put the student in danger. Then
Huff and
the group
paint.
will come up with what they would do and decide on a consensus, present the consensus to the DARE officer, and receive feedback.
I think it's more challenging.
Was that 7th Heaven? All the kids huffing paint.
If you were an officer with the old curriculum, after you presented the lessons 3 or 4 times, that you kind of had the script memorized. With the curriculum as it stands now, every class is different. It's not an information dump. It's not a drugs are bad. It's you've got choices. You just need to slow down. You need to weigh what's presented to you, and decide what the alternatives are and which ones are best for you.
Is there any particular challenges in the modern era that are kind of new and unprecedented?
Currently we're facing the issues with the rise in fentanyl use. And a lot of legislative bodies are mandating educational components be provided to students. Texas last month mandated that every 6th grade through 12th grade student each year receive fentanyl training.
In DARE classrooms in Texas and Oregon, students are instructed on how to apply Narcan to someone's nostril, how to use their knuckles on someone's sternum to reverse an overdose, and a variety of techniques for identifying fentanyl, a cause which President Pegueros believes is of the utmost importance.
Unfortunately, with fentanyl, it's not a scare tactic. It is actually a one-time use can be fatal. And now it's being laced with other drugs. So fentanyl can be treated with Narcan, but some of the other drugs that it's being laced with now aren't opioids, so the Narcan's not working. So,
what do you think about like harm reduction supplies?
In many cases, it gives us the false perception that regardless of your use, you're going to make it through. And unfortunately, last year, the year before, over 100,000 people each year in the U.S. have died from opioid use, most of it associated with fentanyl. And for those people, there is no positive outcome. So, and that's why we don't use, you see a lot of programs use reformed addicts, and it's like you give them the impression, okay, they made it out of it. I can do the same thing. I can use for 5-10 years, then I'll just stop. Unfortunately, for some people, there is no just stopping, or unfortunately for many, it can be a fatality before that came into play. So.
Looking back, do you feel like DARE has been a success?
Yeah, I've seen it be a success. And again, I've been around the program and the officers for 25 years. I get to go back to these schools, and I get to see adults now coming up with their own children. Not, again, goosebump moment for me, not only saying, Retro Bill, I know you'll never remember me, but I saw you speak in 5th grade. You changed my life. Man, you helped me get back on that positive channel. These were my kids. Man, I'm so glad I went through your DARE program. Because, man, I'll tell you what, I used those DARE lessons when I got into high school. That, to me, shows me, without getting into all sorts of research and the numbers they've done and
nerds.
showing,
No, I'm just kidding.
graphs and all that stuff.
If you don't want to do those kind of things, good for you.
Firsthand. Like if somebody goes, is Retro Bill impactful in his work? Yes. Talk to anybody that knows me or has worked with me and been around me. They will tell you. I've been there as a deputy in the room right now as a friend of mine who's been bringing me to her schools for 22 years. And she can tell you right now that I was approached by a 22-year-old girl. It's talked about at the DARE conference just a few weeks back, who was, as I was going into a restaurant for dinner with friends. And this girl, so cute with green and purple hair, she got up from her group of friends and she's like, Retro Bill! And she comes running over and she threw her arms around me. And she goes, I'm sorry, I'm just so excited to see you. And I'm like, wow, what's your name? Tells me her name, Molly. And you're never going to remember me, but you came to my school when I was in like 5th or 6th grade. And my life was in ruins. My parents, drug addicts, sibling in jail for drugs. I ended up being the only person in my family that's graduated even high school. You showed up when I was so low. I was going to kill myself. And you gave me a chance to live because you motivated me and you let me know that I'm okay just being me. Because I was being made fun of for my hair and the way I laughed, and people knew my home life was a mess. Then Retro Bill came in and I'm still here. So I said, what are you doing next week? Would you like to come and be a part of my family show that I'm doing at the local theater? And she's like, are you kidding? Yes. And she got to tell me more of her story. And again, I can go to moments like that where it's like, I know I made an impact in a positive way on a human being's life. Right there. Right? And, you know, you often hear people say, if we can change...
I'm gonna pause it real quick. Need to change some batteries out. The one thing I there we go. Don't like about this headset system sometimes is the battery changing. You have to be very direct with how you do it, because it will get stuck in there if you do it the wrong way. Hopefully that's the right way. It's charging. Wrong way.
One. Well, you know, help one person, change one life, help one person get sober, or not go down that path.
I mean, he means well.
It's destructive. We've made a difference. But I always say, well, then you're shortchanging yourself. You impact one person in a positive way, they have family and friends and people they interact with, and guess what? That positivity is going to grow. Your positive work you do, you show it to a certain group, then they're going to tell somebody else about it. They tell somebody else about it, right?
I'm just checking to see if any mouse clicks are coming through. I don't think so.
I love getting goosebumps. But that's how it works. When did you start to get into doing the work you're doing?
Journalism?
Doing documentary, yeah.
I went to college in New Orleans for documentary film.
But who turned your life around for you?
I had a teacher
Himself.
in high school named Calvin Shaw, who was like this super cool, I think he was like in his early 30s, which was pretty young for the average age range of the teachers. He was my journalism professor, and he would let me actually leave the school to go cover like different events that were happening in the city. Like I remember I would hang out at Occupy Seattle and like do interviews inside the tent city, and I would go interview juggalos who were ICP fans at this place called Westlake Center, which is like a kind of sketchier downtown area. And he said, all you have to do is write a story by the end of the day, and I'll mark you as present. So I was considering dropping out of school when I was in 11th and 12th grade because I just didn't like it. I didn't like the structure. But I graduated because of him, and because of him I got a scholarship to study journalism in New Orleans for all of college. So it all came down to one teacher.
But I love hearing you say that, and that's why I asked, because it shows one person
Can change your life,
change
yeah.
someone's life.
Yeah, without that teacher, I wouldn't be doing this interview. I wouldn't have had a career.
And have you had a chance to tell him?
Yeah, he doesn't even want to hear it. He's like, I always say, thank you, man, for helping me. And he says, it was all you. You know, he's like, I didn't do anything but, you know, let you go do some interviews. I was like, bro, you have no idea how much you helped me.
Maybe there's been a coach, a teacher, a counselor, a grandparent, a mom or a dad, a police officer that is given the same sort of messaging, positive messaging, right? Uplifting, informative messages to somebody just hasn't resonated, didn't click. Retro Bill shows up.
Channel 5 live worldwide, Hollywood and Vine. Fuck the authority.
Fuck the authority. Channel 5 news.
We don't fuck with
Custers.
5 is the best number.
Oh, that's funny. No, he's right though. I mean, I don't agree with the DARE program at all, really, but if it helps some people, that's good. We're gonna hop into some Tarkov offline, unless it drops my connection, and then I'll just quit. Because fucking this shit's wildly annoying. But let's change. What is this? It's like a calendar schedule stream. Oh, you can do that, huh? Oh, it shows you all your past streams. That's cool. They updated Streamlabs a bunch. Now, how do I get off of it, though? Okay. That is trash right there. Goddamn ketchup wrappers. Goddamn ketchup wrappers. Want to see what my insurance looks like. We got our stuff back yet. It's been like 2 days. Maybe do a scav run. Shoot some fucking bots in the face. I've been trying the PvE mode out. That's why I feel like I cut, because I bought the PvE mode. Look at that, 11. Should be a lot of shit. Maybe too much shit. I just want the guns mostly. And the helmets and the vests. If there's good vests, that's a good vest. Cayman's a good helmet. Takedown bag. We can open this. Let's put that in there. Let's put. Never mind. It'll take 2. A grenade came back in insurance. I didn't know that could be insured. Sell that piece of shit. Let's get some music on. That's weird.
I see dead people. Hey, muster on the beat, ho, Debo, any rap nigga, here, free throw, man down, call an ambulance, tell him breathe, bro, nail a nigga to the cross, he walk around like Tizo. What's up with these jabroni ass niggas trying to see Compton? The industry can hate me, fuck them all and they mama. How many options you really got? I mean, it's too many options. I'm finna pass on this body, I'm John Stockton. Beat your ass and hide the Bible if God watching. Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. Certified boogeyman, I'm the one that up to score with him. Walking down whole time, I know he got some hoe in him. Pole on him, extort shit, bully the flow on him. Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any bitch that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. They tell me Chubb's the only one that get your hand-me-downs. And party at the party playing with his nose now. And Baca got a weird case, why is he around? Certified lover boy, certified pedophiles. Wop, 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 wop. That fuck him up. Wop, 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 wop. I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bitch, ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor. They not like us. 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 You think the Bay gon' let you disrespect Pop, nigga? I think that Oakland show gon' be your last stop, nigga. They cold foul, I don't know why you still pretending. What is the owl? Bird niggas and bird bitches, go. The audience not dumb, shape the stories how you want. Hey Drake, they're not slow. Rabbit hole is still deep, I can go further, I promise. Ain't there something P-Rest stands for bitch and you Malibu most wanted. Ain't no love boy, you ball boy, fresh Gatorade or something. Since 2009, I had this bitch jumping. You niggas will get a wedgie, be flipped over your boxes, or over your foe. The other vaginal option, pussy. Nigga better straighten they posture. Got famous all up in content. Might write this with a doctor. Tell a pop star quit hiding. Fuck a caption, won't action. No accident. I'm hands on. He fuck around, get polished. Fucked on Wayne Grow. He was in jail. That's conniving. Then get his face tatted like a bitch apologizing. I'm glad D-Rose came home. Y'all didn't deserve him neither. From Alondra down to Central. Nigga better not speak on Serena. And your homeboy needs a subpoena. That predator moving flocks. That name gotta be registered and placed on neighborhood watch. I lean on you niggas like another line of walk. Yeah, it's all eyes on me and I'ma send it up the pot. Ay, put the roll label on me. I'ma get them dropped. Ay, sweet chin music and I won't pass the ox. Ay, how many stocks do I really have in stock? Ay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 5. Ay, devil is a lie. Here 69 God. Ay, freaky ass niggas need to stay their ass inside. Ay, roll their ass up like a fresh pack of Zod. Ay, city is back up. It's a must. We outside. Ay. They not like us. 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 Once upon a time, all of us was in chains. Homie still double down, calling us some slaves. Atlanta was the mecca, building railroads and trains. Bear with me for a second, let me put y'all on game. The settlers was using town folk to make them richer. Fast forward 2024, you got the same agenda. You run to Atlanta when you need a check balance. Let me break it down for you, this the real nigga challenge. You caught future when you didn't see the club. Hey, what? Little baby help you get your lingo up. What? 21 get your first street cred. Thug make you feel like you a slime in your head. Hey, what? Quavo said you can be from North Side. What? 2 Chainz say you good, but he lied. You run to Atlanta when you need a few dollars. No, you not a colleague, you a fucking colonizer. The family matter and the truth of the matter. Here was God's plan to show y'all the liar. He a fan, he a fan, he a fan. He a fan, he a fan, he a freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Hey, 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 run for your life. Hey, 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 run for your life. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Hey, 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 run for your life. Hey, 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 run for your life. Let me hear you say OV ho. OV ho. Say OV ho. OV ho. Then step this way, step that way. Then step this way, step that way. Are you my friend? Are we locked in? Then step this way, step that way, then step this way, step that way.
No, it's Peacekeeper who sells it. Where does he live? We have the key. I just forgot. I think it's like 303. No, it's 220. Okay.